Hey, this is Brent Leary, and once again, I'm still in Vegas. I can't seem to leave Vegas, but I'm here for another great conference. This is Magento Imagine. It's really been a great event. I've had an opportunity to see and talk to a lot of different folks, but I'm really excited to talk to the person sitting right next to me here, Jason Woolsey. He was the Vice President of Commerce for Adobe. Jason, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
I was really expecting you to come in either being brought down or from below. But,
yeah, one of the things we do at Imagine is try and have a lot of fun with our stage entrances, and we hold our keynotes at the Encore Theater, which has a lot of exciting things for us to try out. And yeah, I got to fly in from the ceiling, which was quite the experience. I was up there in the ceiling for a little bit longer than I expected, but once I got down, everything seemed to kick off pretty well.
Yeah, you came in one day from the ground up, and then one day from the top down. Which one did you like better?
You know, I think the ground up was probably a little bit safer in a lot of ways, and I didn't have to wear a harness, which was a little bit uncomfortable on stage. But
well, you pulled it off, man. You pulled it off.
You got to do it. And it was a lot of fun. And it was almost like an Iron Man entrance kind of thing, right?
It was. You did have a Tony Stark feel going on.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And it's so characteristic of Imagine, right? We don't take ourselves too seriously. We're very enthusiastic. I mean, I think we're all in this to go win, and this is really the one time a year where we all come together and really just celebrate each other's success and start talking about what cool things we get to do next.
Very cool. Well, first of all, it's really interesting. This is my first time coming to Imagine. I've been to a lot of Adobe summits before, but now with the acquisition, or as I like the way it was phrased, the partnership, because you each bring something to the table.
Yep.
It's good to be here. So maybe you could give me a little of your personal background before we dig into some of the other stuff.
Sure, absolutely. So I started my career as a software engineer way back in the day. Kind of migrated over to product management at some point. Went and got an MBA, and then really spent my time in commerce around HomeAway. Moving over to Volusion, where we worked on small business. I actually grew that business from about 8,000 stores to over 45,000 stores. Created a new product there called Mozu, which was an enterprise commerce services play. That was divested into Kibo, and now Kibo Commerce actually sells Mozu as their flagship product. And then finally made my way to Magento and saw the light. I've been at Magento a little over 3 years now. This is my third Imagine. It has been an incredible ride. It's my first time working in an open source company, so there's a lot of really cool aspects to that business that I got familiar with very quickly once I got here. And then, of course, with the Adobe acquisition last year, we really started to see the experience journey come together in a way that I've been excited about for a long time. I think the combination of content and commerce is fairly natural, and being good at one or the other it doesn't cut it in today's market. So you really do have to double down on both, and what Adobe's brought to the table in terms of the tools to get that done is just incredibly exciting for me.
Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that combination that Adobe brings to Magento and what Magento brings to Adobe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we first started kind of talking through the due diligence, it was very clear that we were all aligned on kind of philosophically where we wanted to take our software. We think that the future is microservices. We've got a lot of work to do to get there kind of comprehensively, but we've already kind of started that path. So realizing that we were already fairly well aligned on what we were doing, I think it's just opened the doors for us to really learn from each other. And so, what Magento does really, really well is, the openness of our systems. And I mean that both internally and externally, right? So if you think about the internal development teams, a lot of times you have a team that's working on something and, they don't let anybody else touch their code. They just have, one objective and off they go. But it kind of ignores the interdependencies of those development teams. And so we've taken our open concept where we can accept pull requests from anybody in the community, and also internalize that. So now our internal teams can also accept pull requests from any other internal team. And it keeps you from being bottlenecked. If you have something you need from a team, you can actually just go write it yourself, submit the pull request, and off you go. And I think Adobe's super excited about kind of seeing that kind of trickle into their development methodology. And of course, we've benefited from all of the maturity and the tooling, security analysis tools, all of the performance analysis tools, really giving us more insight into how we write better software. the combination has been truly fairly fantastic. I mean, you always kind of expect that these things are going to, kind of leave you alone for a little bit, and then the shoe's going to drop, and everything's going to be crazy. But I think we have found a way to integrate in a truly meaningful, taking full advantage of synergies and just doing things that make sense, just being rational about the approach, which, I got to give Adobe a ton of credit for, because they have come in really respecting the Magento community and doing everything they can to continue the momentum that we have at our backs here, and expanding that into the Adobe ecosystem. So it's terrific for the community as well. It is an absolute win-win. I mean, when you think about that last mile of transaction that Adobe was missing in their experience engine, we're very clearly able to fill that, both in the small business all the way up to very, very large enterprises. And closing that loop just means that we've now got the only tool set on the market that can actually address the customer journey from end to end. And that's the capabilities that we're so excited about putting in our customers' hands, is this real ability to take an experience that's on brand, meet your customer at any point.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the announcements, some of the big announcements. And really, I guess the one that stands out to me, of course, I do a show called Watching Amazon, so I'm guessing you know where I'm going with this one. But the whole announcement around making it easier for Magento merchants to integrate and have their inventories and stores on Amazon set up for them.
Yeah, watching Amazon is something we should all be doing. It's one of the interesting things that happened last year is that the needle kind of moved over above 50% for the number of product searches that originate from the Amazon platform, right, which makes that an absolute juggernaut, impossible to ignore now. So we were super excited to announce Amazon Sales Channel, which allows our merchants to very, very easily sell on the Amazon Marketplace. It allows them to synchronize their inventory, their catalog, and their orders, to do so very selectively with a lot of tools and techniques to help them make their experience on Amazon as on-brand as possible. And we recognize that Amazon's a marketplace. You don't get a lot of opportunity to differentiate yourself, but we certainly think it's something you can't ignore. Mm-hmm. And so creating opportunities for our merchants to participate in that incredible marketplace while still maintaining a best-in-class branded storefront, we think is an easy answer. So, and what we try to do pretty much across the board is not take people out of their workflow. So if you're in the commerce side of the house and you're working on your orders and channels and campaigns, you want to be able to do that from one place. And if you have to get out of your workflow, go into the Amazon system, that's just another set of training, another opportunity for mistakes, and another set of systems that you've got to find a way to stitch back together when you're actually reporting. We've made that a piece of cake. It's actually out-of-the-box capability, and you put in your Amazon credentials from Magento, and off you go. You can select products, catalogs, categories, campaigns, all that kind of stuff. Determine how much inventory you want to make available on Amazon. So if you're really looking to drive more traffic to your storefront, maybe you don't put all your inventory on Amazon, but still kind of drive some of that interest.
Well, it's like if you can't beat them, leverage them.
I think that's exactly right. That's very well put. If you can't beat them, leverage them, and it's going to be different for each merchant, right? Everybody's got a different approach to how to deal with these things, but I think the important thing is that we'll give you the tools and the flexibility to deal with them the way that you choose.
And then on the other hand, there's another kind of big company out there, Google, that's driving a lot of traffic.
Absolutely.
You're also doing something with them. What's that?
Yeah, well, and Google, again, driving still over 50% of traffic and revenue to storefronts, so that's another important avenue. And when you think about demand generation, really, that's a tool that you want to operate just like a campaign from within the Magento admin. So we announced Google Ads Channel, which allows merchants to conduct a full Google Shopping experience from directly within. Google Shopping campaign. I believe that's the actual term, and I'm going to have to check. But you can do that all right from the Magento admin, and essentially allowing you to optimize your targeted spend. Mm-hmm. Google takes care of making sure that the ads are targeted and relevant, and you've got the creative control right from Magento, and then of course you can measure all of the efficacy of that ad spend as well.
One of the things about that is the ability to basically leverage Google's AI to help you manage optimize your ad spend.
That's exactly right. Yeah, Google's campaigns are incredibly intelligent. They leverage all of the great machine learning work that they've done to make sure that those ads do hit the targeted consumer in a way that gives them a better chance of having a positive brand experience with you.
And just in general, with Magento now being under the Adobe umbrella, you get a chance to take advantage of Adobe Sensei, right?
That's exactly right. And we are bringing Sensei capabilities to Magento Commerce, which is one of the things I'm most excited about from the acquisition, right? It's always those enterprise tools that you feel are so far out of reach for the mid-market, but those capabilities apply just as much to small merchants as they do to large merchants. I mean, when you think about it, at the end of the day, your shopper doesn't care whether you're a big or small retailer. Right. They care whether the experience is positive. Right. So bringing the AI capabilities of Sensei into Magento Commerce is a no-brainer, and we're starting out with recommendation, very much looking into experience targeting very soon. So lots of great runway on what we do with Sensei.
Okay, one other thing that I know is kind of near to you is the old progressive web apps piece.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've been on the forefront pushing progressive web apps really since 2017. A partnership with Google to really bring those capabilities to Magento merchants natively. Mm-hmm. We have a default storefront theme called Luma that's been terrific. Gives you a ton of opportunities on the flexibility of using responsive web design. Now we're actually creating we created a new theme called Vinia that is a PWA-based theme, and it takes full advantage of all of the PWA constructs, right? The ability to add to home screen, offline viewing mode, and no over delivery of assets, so you're being highly responsive and actually getting smaller packages being delivered to the mobile devices, which is great for emerging markets where bandwidth may be expensive or not broadly available, or the mobile device is maybe the only connected device. But also it makes the experience on every device snappier, and that's something that we know that consumer expectations are rising. Nice. PWA is a terrific technology to go and meet those consumer expectations and really provide those delightful experiences that every brand is looking for.
And you say this is a really good news not only for the big enterprises but also for the SMB folks.
That's right. Yeah. When we talk about how PWA Studio, which is our premier authoring tool for progressive web applications, really brings the capabilities of PWA to a much broader swath of JavaScript developers. So we use technologies like React and Webpack. These are things that are very familiar with today's JavaScript developers, and makes it a much less expensive operation because you don't have to go get specialized teams to go and write your storefront. So we think that this is going to make it less expensive and more accessible for SMBs, and of course, enterprises will be leading the charge and driving that forward in a really impressive way. So we're excited about PWA. I think there's a wave of change coming on all the web. Like I said earlier, I think if we don't see in 2 years, every single web application that's being developed will be a PWA application. Wow. I'm 100% confident that that's where we're headed. And so right now is the time to invest in PWA, and we're super excited to bring the right tools and the right capabilities to merchants of all sizes to get this done.
I think a stat that you mentioned in your keynote was it 75% now of shopping is being done with people via a mobile device? Or?
Well, over 50% of traffic is now being generated from a mobile device, which is great news. But the opportunity to close the gap on conversion between the mobile device and a desktop device is about $9 billion. Making those mobile experiences seamless and as transactable as possible, that's a $9 billion opportunity on the table, and something we should all be chasing.
All right, well, where can people learn more about all these different announcements and just in general what's going on with Magento and Adobe?
Well, Magento.com is a great place to start for Magento specific, of course, and then we have on the Adobe.com website lots of information about our Adobe Commerce Cloud. Of course, you can go to our forums. Twitter, we're actually very active on Twitter. Our community is in love with that, so if you want to know stuff about Imagine, the hashtag is Magento Imagine, and there's tons of information, videos, and you can actually see me falling from the sky on the stage there.
Oh, wait a minute, you're getting ready to leave now, so do you want to do something special now and leaving, maybe a puff of smoke or something?
A puff of smoke would be fantastic if you got something available.
I'll just do this. We're done.
All right, awesome.